Well, welcome to What's Broken. Here's my latest acquisition, or project. It's a 1972 Honda CB750. I think it's also a model K2. Pretty much intact, other than a little bit of worse for wear and tear. It's been a little sun-kissed, sitting outside. Got the covers for it. You can kind of see which side was in the sun more than the other. Rubber looks good. I do have the chain off it soaking in oil because it was a tad rusty. Yeah, it looks like all the parts are there. Some of the stuff's off the front brake, disc brake. He's got a box of stuff to give me yet, so anyway, I'll get you set up in a stand and we'll kind of get into this and see what it's about. I popped a couple of the plug wires off. Looks like a 5/8 socket for these plugs, and I'm using one of those little U-joint deals. I've had a few different bikes, but not since 1980. Last one was a Suzuki 1100 GSL. 900 Kawasaki before that. A little 250 Yamaha street bike. And a whole bunch of different sort of enduro dirt bike things. Oh, it's out. Well, it doesn't look bad. Maybe burning a little bit rich. Let's see what this first one looks like. Whoops, sorry about that. That one looks about the same. Okay, the other two plugs pretty much look the same as these. A little carboned up. Just using this engine storage spray. I use it on my my boat motors. Well, let's see if it wants to turn over. Yeah, that still works. Okay. Oh shit. The brass tube pulled out of the petcock. Yeah. So did that one. Okay, well, there's another repair. Because I was sitting so long, I do want to pop apart the air box. Just make sure there's no mouse nest inside. Looks like it splits in the middle. Looks like one of these on each side. Well, that's out. Okay, I took 2 short screws and 2 long screws or bolts out of the top. And managed to somewhat get things apart. Okay. And he said he thought the air filter was brand new, and it looks brand new. So I was doing a little bit of thinking last night on how I want to approach this, and he was riding it up until 2016 or 2017 when he parked it, so it ran. I'm going to tear it down to the frame, get everything off, and then when I have everything out, I'll fix things as I put them back together. New head gasket on it. I did notice the head's weeping a little bit. Set the valves, all that good stuff. But other than that, I think it makes sense to just tear it down. So after a lot of sort of pressing and prying, I got the carb assembly off. And they look shiny inside, but that doesn't really tell anything. I'll pop off all the bowls and see what the bottom looks like. Maybe spray through some carb cleaner, because it's been sitting for, well, a few years. 16 to now is like 7 years, so see what they look like. I took out the front bolt, disconnected all the wires. They're all color coded for the coils. Just going to take out the back bolt. And I'll lift the coil pack out. I marked all the plug wires 1 through 4, so hopefully I'll get them back in the right place. The other thing I do on projects like this is keep a box of sandwich bags or freezer bags handy. You know, this is the horn, and there's 2 bolts with flat washers and lock washers that go with it. That way I keep all that together so I'm not rooting through a bucket of screws and nuts and bolts. And I'll also put, say if I end up with a handful of nuts and washers and bolts from something, I'll label it with felt pen and then put it in the bin. Just makes it a lot easier for reassembly. I unplugged all the wires going to the back, the lights, and this was a ground that ties onto the spare helmet lock. And then to get this assembly out, there's one nut, a 10 mil you can get at, and then it lifts off of this little bracket here. And now I should be able to lift out this battery box. Well, looks like I have to take out the tool case little trough here. Gotta love Honda, all the nuts are welded on the back side, so it makes it easy to take things apart. So I got most of the the main electrical, I don't know what you call it, conglomeration of whatnots, solenoids and fuse and turn signals, etc. Looks like a voltage regulator. Got that all undone from the battery box. That cable runs up through here and into the back of the headlight. Pop the headlight out. There's two screws, one on each side, sort of a little bit below center. I'm going to disconnect the headlight before I drop it and break it. That's assuming it works. I don't know, there looks like there's a little, call it aftermarket wiring that was done here. I do have wiring diagrams for this, so if I run into a whole bunch of grief putting it back together, hopefully I'll be able to figure it out. I got the wires out of the headlight, bit of a dog's breakfast, but I'll sort that later. Should be able to feed it back through the frame. And there you have it, a Honda wiring harness. Over to the bin. These are probably the best kind of jigsaw puzzles to take apart and put together. So get the front signal lights off, and then I'm just loosening up they help hold that front headlight bracket or bucket in. Just get the back ones off. Well, that's loose. There we go. Yeah, it just kind of slides out of there. Whoop. There, and that's out. I think I'm about ready to pop the gauges off. They just sit in there. And I already disconnected the speedometer cable from the head. I need to disconnect it from down on the wheel. Next, I think I'll get this front brake assembly removed. Again, putting as many nuts and bolts back from where they came so I don't have to guess what I'm looking for when I go to put it back together. Well, I kind of got going into things without, forgot to videotape, but I got the pipes off, 6 bolts I think total. Just getting ready to loosen off some of the motor mounts, get rid of the foot pegs. I'm going to need a buddy over to help me get this motor out, because it's I think dry, it's 176 pounds and I just can't lift that anymore. I'll get this brake pedal out of the way so I can get at the frame bolt, or the motor mount bolt. And it's off. There's a little chunk there which could easily cause a small wound. Just going to drop the oil out of this reservoir tank, then get it out of the way.
Two of those. Looks like there's an O-ring on that.
On the back side here, there's a hose that goes down into the crankcase. As well, there's a breather hose, or a vent hose. Should be able to get the tank off now. I cracked these 3 bolts loose. They're a bit of a shouldered bolt on the bottom. Looks like a regular, oh no, it's shouldered as well. And a third. In. A little more oil to drain out. Looking pretty clean. Just wiggle that bottom hose out through the frame. Pop the drain plug back in. I'll just gonna drain the crankcase and then take the oil filter off. This will maybe tell the tale of if there's any particulates in there. Looks pretty clean. The oil doesn't look bad, like I say, a little dark, but that's pretty normal, especially because it's been sitting for 6 or 7 years. But there's no metallic, no rainbow colors, so that is an excellent sign. So next I think I'll try and disconnect the clutch cable. Get the kickstart out of the way.
Oh, that came off nice and easy. See how these come out. So far, so good. I was thinking my 20-year-old self would have just bought this, you know, all things being the same, would have bought an older bike, put gas in it, and just drove it. But, okay. That's out of the way. I was trying to figure out how we were going to, I don't know if I mentioned this already, how we were going to lift the motor up and out and get it out sideways, given that I don't pick up what I used to in dead weight. Watched a couple of YouTube videos last night, different ideas of cables and pulleys and straps and 2x4s and bars, and then I came across one where the fella said, you know, take the brackets off this side, lay it over on the right side, and just lift the frame off. So, it makes a whole lot more sense to me to lift up a 35, 40-pound frame, because I'm going to have all the tires and the forks off it anyway, than to try to move a 175-pound motor. So I think I'm getting close to seeing how that theory works.
Gonna drop the back tire off this. I took the cotter key out and disconnected the brake linkage. And now I'm just taking the nut off the axle bolt. nut and a big washer. Just loosen off the chain tensioners. And the back tire's off. What we got here? 14 and a 14. Oh good, that the swing arm has zero play in it. Just getting ready to drop the front tire and forks off. We'll get the handlebar and dash lights out of the way. Okay, I already broke these nuts and bolts loose.
Just gonna get them off. There we go.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be any play in that triple tree. Yeah, loosened that one off with I think it was a 12 mil, and 1.25 inches was pretty close to whatever this one is. I'm not sure even how these come apart. I've not ever had one apart. I know there's a special wrench for this, but I think I'll do it this way. Ah, there we go. We'll pick up all the little ball bearings. We'll have to count those up, make sure they're all there. And I'll check out the race. Okay. I'll very carefully get those bearings out of there. Try and keep all that stuff in one place. And then the next step will be to just back you up here for a minute. The next step is going to be to put down some blocking and padding, drag this out, and lay it over on its side so I can remove 3 bolts of the frame bolts or mounting bolts and lift the frame and leave the motor. Well, it actually tilted over on its side a lot easier than I thought it was gonna. I thought I might need a friend, but it just laid over nicely. So I'm gonna pop the three last bolts out. And hopefully just lift the frame off. Just move you guys over to there. Well, that wasn't bad. Well, I think I'm going to take the frame over to the car wash and spend $5 or $10 pressure washing all the grease and crud off it, and just beginning to sort of clean up the bottom of the motor. I think it's too heavy to load in the truck by myself and take to the car wash. So I got a little, I think this is a grout or a silicone remover tool that I've never used. I kind of want to stay with plastic wherever possible, so as not to mar any of the surfaces. It's basically got, you know, give or take 51 years of grime on the bottom of the motor. The rest of it isn't too bad. Up here, let me get you a little better. Up here there's a, you know, there's some bit of baked on oil. As the previous owner told me, and I could see, the head gasket is weeping, so hopefully that's all it is. I'll pop that apart after I get some of the cleanup done and get that all shined up. But for the next while, it's just going to be sort of tedious scraping and try to get some of this caked on stuff off. And then I'll use good old WD-40. And I've got a little plastic brush. Yeah, this is going to take more than anything just time. So this is the before picture, and I'll bring it back when I'm getting near the end. I'm also using a sort of wetting the areas down with WD-40 and using a popsicle stick and a chopsticks just to get in to all the little nooks and crannies. They say if you had a motor lift and a car wash, this would be short work. But as it is, it's just kind of a Zen process. I got nothing else to do today, so this'll be what it is. Yeah, some of this stuff is pretty caked and baked. But it's coming, so like I say, I'll bring you back once it started looking a little shinier. Well, here it is, 3 or 4 hours later, working with the popsicle sticks and the chopstick and little plastic brush and lots of WD-40. But it's getting there. Finding what's working for between the fins is taking the chopstick and wrapping it in a terry towel that's been soaked in WD-40. And then just kind of working it. Seems to be working. So I'm going to put a bit of a hold on finishing cleaning the engine and, tearing the head apart and whatnot. My thinking is I'm going to buff and sand the frame down and paint it, and then I can let it sit for however long it takes to do the engine work and any other oddball stuff, figure out what I need to order, and that'll give this a chance, the paint to harden or cure. I'm using the bunch of the guys on the forums suggested this, the Rust-Oleum 2-time Satin Canyon Black. Like I say, I'm not restoring this thing to pristine showroom condition. I just want to, spiff it up, clean it up, sort of do a bit of a, just make it look pretty and shiny and get it running good, and then I'll figure out what I'll do with it. Got my safety glasses on, gonna put my gloves on. Just using this awesome Milwaukee fuel, 18 volt, and just some various wire wheels. So I knocked off all the heavy stuff with a buffer wheel. Any bit of road debris and grime that was left on. Had a good look at the swing arm, and there is zero play in it. And I'm looking at these bearing races, and they're immaculate. No scratches, no rust. So what I'm thinking or wondering is, given it's 51 years old, but the odometer only reads about 32,000 miles, is that 132 or just 32? I know I had bikes, and not all of them, I didn't put on 6,000 kilometers or 3,500 miles per season, so I'll have to see what the inside of that motor looks like, and that'll maybe tell the tale. Anyway, I'm going to start with 180 grit. I've got a bunch of these adhesive pads left from back when I did some other projects. And what I like to do with them is take the backing paper off and very carefully sort of find center and stick them to themselves. And it sort of stiffens it up quite a bit so that, when I start sanding, it works really well. I also picked up primer, so any of the bare spots I'll prime and then re-sand before I paint. And it's got the corners here, so it helps getting into little nooks and crannies. Yeah, so I'm going to take a little bit of time and go over it start with the 180, and then I think I'll go to 400. Then I think I've got some 800, so that's what I got, that's what I'm going to use. Well, I got it all scraped and sanded and took it up to 600 grit. I thought I had higher, but 600 will be plenty for what I'm doing. Everything's nice and smooth. A few bare spots, so I'll wipe it down with acetone tomorrow and prime it, and then lightly sand the primed spots and start hitting it with the good old Rust-Oleum. I just made a hanger here for it just to sort of test it out, so I can swivel it back and forth, get all the nooks and crannies. And in the back I've got a bunch of light poly, so I'm just gonna lay a big width of poly that way and then down onto the floor, so the majority of the overspray will get collected. Well, I got it hung, it's all polyed off around, and I'm wiped it all down with acetone. So I'm going to hit some of the bare spots with the primer. I'm just going to give it a light dusting with 800 just to make sure that the black paint has something to stick to. It's been drying for over an hour now, so should be good. I need to go put on my rubber gloves so I'm not transferring any grabblies from my fingers, but I'm going to carry on doing this, and I'll bring you back for the beginning of the black paint, and then shut it off probably because I don't want to get overspray on your eyeballs. I'm just going to stick my respirator on. Try to limit how many grabblies I breathe in. Like the Rolling Stones said, paint it black. Well, I'm going to shut the camera off so I don't get overspray, but there's lots of nooks and crannies, so I'll probably do 2 to 3 coats. So I got the first coat done. I actually really like this satin black. It covers nicely. It goes on. There was no spittering or spattering. Nozzle seems to work really good. So I'm going to let it air dry here for, I don't know, probably 30 to 40 minutes, and then hit it with another coat. So I got, probably 2.5 to 3 coats on everything. It's been hanging here air drying for a while. As I said before, it's a really nice finish, this satin black. I like it. So I'm going to let this sit for, a few days, a week, while I carry on working on the motor and, checking out hubs and brakes and bearings on wheels and all the other good stuff. And then I'll start putting it back together. But yeah, really nice paint job for under 50 bucks. Just going to start a little cleanup on the wheels. I mixed 2 cups water, 1/4 cup vinegar, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of soap. And it works for many different applications. Just want to get some of the heavy road grime off, and then I'll hit it with some quadruple aught steel wool and good old WD-40. Looks like there's some road tar or bug guts or something on it. And while this rubber is, you know, probably a few years old, it's not showing any signs of weathering or cracking, so I think he had it covered up with a tarp a good amount of the time. Now I got the old extra fine finishing grade super fine. Just going to soak it with a little WD-40. Whoops. Well, that's the rear wheel that I still have to work on. But I must say the front wheel came out nice and shiny. So I think I'm going to take apart this back wheel and, you know, the hub and the sprocket and whatnot, and just check everything out. So I'll get set up and we can get into that. And nice. Oh, I must have dropped the tire or something and bent that one in a little bit, but that's an easy fix. Clean some of the grease off this shaft or axle bolt. This should just slide right off. The brake shoes look like they're wearing evenly. There's still 3/16 of an inch there. Yeah, I'll maybe clean that up a little bit. I don't know that I'll change them though. I don't think they need changing yet. That all feels okay. Yeah, no play on the I didn't notice any play when I was taking it apart, and it still feels, or it feels really good. No grooves or anything in this. No excessive wear. So again, that's a good sign. believe these are 19s, yep. I'll take a minute and take off the 4 locking tabs, get the nuts off and remove the sprocket. Be right back. Nice, I can give all this stuff a bath now. It's just a spacer, not a bearing. Good, good. That bearing still feels rock solid, so I'm going to degrease all of this off camera, scrub it down, and then do the same number on the rim with, first clean it up with the vinegar water and soap, and then some quadruple aught what am I calling it? Steel wool and good old WD-40, and then I followed up the other one with some turtle polishing wax on and a buffer wheel on the old Milwaukee. I rolled the motor up onto a little roll around stand or platform just so I can move it around a bit easier. I used the good old impact driver to break the tappet cover screws loose. I think I bought this, what would it be? Almost 50 years ago when I bought my first Honda SL100, and I believe it was also a 72. Anyhow, these are loose, so I just want to two more.
Two more that we're hiding. Yeah, that's better. Looks like they're all pretty consistent except for the 2 outside ones.
Well, so far everything's looking not terrible. Next step will be to get all the rockers off and then get at those head bolts. Then we can see what the inside of the cylinders and top of the pistons and valves and whatnot look like. So I cracked this valve adjustment loose. Just going to go around I cheated and looked online, and there's various ways of removing all the components. But I think I'll back off the tension on everything, because I'll have to reset it when I put the new head gasket on anyway. Okay, I've loosened all the bolts and nuts on top. I loosened the timing chain gear. All the valves have lots of play. Well, I also got this from my sister. It's a little potting tray for planting plants. So I'm just going to use it to sort of keep everything organized. Hopefully organized. Just using a magnet to not lose nuts and washers. Okay, it took just a little bit of wrangling, but I got this one out as well. Just keep it all together. It all feels smooth. Everything's looking good on that side. Rotate the crank a bit and make sure these two are completely free. See how easy this one comes out. That's a little better. There we go. Yeah, this is all in good shape as well. So hopefully it's just the head gasket. I took one bolt out of the top timing gear. Got a rag here so nothing falls down. There's the other bolt. I got it secured with a zip strap and a weight, so hopefully it doesn't fall out of the way. Now I think it's going to be a little bit of a puzzle just to rotate it and get it out of here. Got to find the right I'm going to play with this for a while. It'll probably take me a bit because I got to keep moving it back and forth to get all the lobes out. Got the cam out. It was a whole lot easier. I just popped the timing chain off the gear and was able to wiggle it out. All the lobes look to be in really good condition. So that's good. I'll get these two carriers off and I can get at the head bolts. Did a little tapping with the rubber hammer and some rocking. And that comes loose. Not too brutal, just got to work it loose. Yeah, I think it's coming. Yep. There we go. Set. All these surfaces seem to be still intact. I think I'll take a minute and set the cam back on these and all the rockers just so I keep everything together. Then we'll look at these head bolts.